To secure an extension of the child tax credit has cities open to advancing the policy. Here is the breaking news, but unfortunately must check everybody that you need to know. Continue watching this video to stay up to date on this. A group of Democratic lawmakers have officially put a brand new stimulus proposal on the negotiating table, everybody. This plan is going to provide millions of Americans with an extra $400 stimulus check. And top lawmakers are looking for the fastest way to get more stimulus aid to the people. So we have some good news. A group of Democratic lawmakers have rolled out a proposal this week to send a $400 rebate check to individual taxpayers to ease some of their burdens. The plan will pay out $400 to each individual who pays income tax in the state, regardless if they own a vehicle, and effectively will operate as a one-year tax gas holiday. A state official has told reporters that the effort is coming in a period when gas in California has increased in each of the past 23 days. Gavin Newsom told reporters that this proposed $400 rebate would cover the current 51 cents per gallon gas tax for one full year. In the request, the lawmakers also said that it's important that every taxpayer get the rebate because they too have seen their living expenses increase due at least in part to the increased cost of gasoline. But friends, these $400 checks may not be the only form of relief for Californians coming from the legislature in the time to come, particularly for low and middle income earners. According to state representative, there is a separate legislation from the proposed tax rebate that has been floated by Governor Newsom. Now folks, these $400 checks may not be the only form of relief for Californians coming from the legislature in the time to come, particularly for low and middle income earners. According to state representatives, there is a separate legislation from the proposed tax rebate that has been floated by Governor Newsom this month in the State of the State address. The high gas prices have been a major discussion in the United States in recent weeks. This week, Joe Biden tweeted that gas prices should be decreasing along with oil prices. And the IRS is now wading through an unprecedented backlog of unprocessed tax returns. But the head of the tax collecting agency told Congress today that he expects the government to clear out the pileup by the end of the year. While speaking before the House Ways and Means Committee, IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig told lawmakers that he foresees the IRS clearing the backlog of tax returns absolutely before December. Chuck Rettig said, as of today, barring any unforeseen circumstances, if the world stays as it is today, we will be what we call healthy by the end of the calendar year 2022. And the progress, everybody, is because the IRS has a planned hiring spree this tax season to process 20 million tax returns from previous years. There are also fresh challenges facing the IRS this year, and taxpayers will have to reflect the monthly child tax credit payments and the stimulus checks they received in 2021 on their returns. This is further complicating matters and increasing the likelihood of errors and delays in processing returns. Over the course of 6 months, last year, millions of eligible families received monthly checks for up to $300 from the expanded child tax credit, and parents can expect more money with their tax refunds this year, up to $1,800 per child under 6. The tax credit may be worth up to $6,000. If you're ready for a stimulus payment, then continue watching this video. And if you want to know the latest news about Social Security benefits, continue watching to the end. Millions of additional low and middle income people will be holding on to more cash this year as long as they remember to fill out the right form come tax season. The IRS has just expanded the criteria to qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit, giving a permanent green light to those who are at least 19 years of age without dependents. Before this year's round of changes, the Earned Income Tax Credit was only available to parents, childless people between the ages of 25 and 64. The IRS change reflects the federal government's ongoing expansions of the Earned Income Tax Credit to help more Americans struggling financially during the crisis. And with President Biden changing it up last year under the American Rescue Plan, it is a change that is now permanent. The Earned Income Tax Credit has historically existed as a tax break for low to moderate income workers, with credits ranging between $560 and around $6,935 for 2022. The exact amount someone receives will depend on their income and filing status. Until this year, having children was an additional qualifier. The American Rescue Plan introduced a temporary lift on the child requirement, roughly tripling the maximum credit for childless workers from $538 to around $1,500 last year. The income eligibility requirement still depends on how many children a given filer has. Until this year, having children was an additional qualifier. The American Rescue Plan introduced a temporary lift on the child requirement, roughly tripling the maximum credit for childless workers from $538 to around $1,500 last year. And the less one earns, the greater the Earned Income Tax Credit, because it's a refundable tax credit. Lower income taxpayers who have little to no income tax liability can receive the total amount of the credit as a tax refund anyway. Now let's go over the status of the fourth stimulus check. Well, I know that there are many Americans that are anxiously waiting for Congress to send out stimulus payments to help during the crisis.
Senator Lamas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your appearing here today. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Mosher, I want to ask you a straightforward question based on your law enforcement experience at the Treasury Department. If an investigator was forced to choose between investigating an illicit finance case involving cash or digital assets, which do you believe most would choose and why?
Thank you for the question, Senator Lummis. I think there's no question, and this comes from time at the Department of Justice and also being the head of enforcement at OFAC. It is far faster to get to the critical point that you need to dig deeper with cryptocurrency, given the nature of the public ledger. This is for several reasons. One, you have a public immutable ledger. So if you take the example of when OFAC designates an address, within hours, mathematical heuristics from Chainalysis, TRM, Elliptic, all these tools out there are quickly building out all the public ledger networks that are associated with that address through co-spending and other relatively mathematically certain ways of at least knowing what the association is. In the fiat world, you see an address, and for the next 3 years, you do mutual legal assistance treaties and hope that you get something back. You guess what regional banks might be involved based on the customers you think it's going to be and send subpoenas and hope that they come back. And then you manually try to associate addresses with entities. It's just exponentially faster.
Thank you. Is it Levin or Levin?
Senator, I respond to either, but it's Levin.
Levin. Okay, thank you. Chainalysis found that approximately 0.15% of all digital asset transactions were related to illicit finance in 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, 0.15%, yes.
The United Nations recently estimated that money laundered in the traditional financial system is between 800 billion and 2 trillion in US dollars a year. So how does that compare with digital assets?
Thanks, Senator. So just to put the like-for-like comparison, it's important to look at the percentages as estimates. And so, in the traditional financial sector and the OECD and IMF and others, estimate somewhere between 2 to 5% of world, financial flows are related to money laundering and illicit flows. Comparing that to the 0.15%,